when we think about abundance, there are three parts, and there's three parts that we'll be kind of covering in this code. And what society really focuses on when it comes to especially financial abundance is action. Action, action, action. All you gotta do is you gotta go out there and you gotta work. You gotta take action. That is a key component, but it's the last component. And if you don't have these two follow-up steps, your action is gonna just be meaningless because there are a lot of people that take a lot of action that work very hard that have Zippo money, right? They work very, very hard. The second step behind action is identifying your purpose. Now, this is the other thing that people are really fixated on of like, well, if I'm going to take, I get that I can't just take action without purpose, so I need to identify my purpose. Great, right? And now that's a little bit more tricky, and that's the next layer, and a lot of people have that layer. But there's still people that are like, I'm on purpose, with a purpose, taking action. And usually you start to make some money there. People who are it's like things are moving, things are grooving. It starts to happen, but it's still frustrating. You're still hitting a wall. You're still not getting to where you need to be, even though you know exactly what you want to do, how you want to do it, and you're doing it. There's still another layer. And that first thing is lifestyle, which is the container that you are. Now, there's a lot of things. It's like money comes to the perfect balance. Lakshmi wants to hang out with someone who is very balanced, who has very balanced, clean intentions. And money isn't looking for extremes necessarily. Money doesn't want to go hang out with somebody who's going to spend it all on other people. Money doesn't want to hang out with someone who is going to spend money in a way to make themselves seem more important or better than other people. Money doesn't want to hang out with someone who is going to use it to buy a ton of food and be super gluttonous and compromise their health. Money doesn't really want to come to someone who just wants to hold it and never give it to anyone. There's a balance in the container of living a generative lifestyle. Oftentimes when you see people with a lot of money, it's like their life, they wake up, everything is like balanced. They eat good food, but they're not restrictive. They eat good food, they're not restrictive. They work out, but they don't kill themselves. They relax, but they don't overindulge. They go on vacation, but not for too long. They're enjoying life in a balanced way. There's this lifestyle, and they give to the poor, but not before they give to themselves. A lot of people who have a lot of money, you would never know that they have a lot of money because they don't share it because it's not there for their own ego to make themselves feel better about themselves. And you're going to say, well, I see a lot of people who are doing all the things that you're saying not to do, Casey. And those people do get money, but they can't hold on to it for very long. It just, they're usually leveraged in debt, like to the moon. It's not real wealth. They're just leveraged in debt and they figured out how to do all these things in order to boost this up, but it's not real. It's all on a house of cards. And so Lakshmi has very high standards of who she hangs out with. And those standards are of someone who is balanced in this way, who has a solid sense of self, that doesn't really have anything to prove, that can maintain their a generative lifestyle, that can have some fun, but not too much, that's just mature, that is purpose focused and driven and takes action. And that's kind of like a overall big summary of what we'll be covering in the Lakshmi Abundance Code. Something else that I want to bring to you is, I coach a lot of people, and I think we were talking about it the other day where it's okay not to be good at something on the first try. We talk about that you can't expect yourself to win the heavyweight world champion when you've just been in the boxing ring a couple of months. It would be unreasonable. It would be ridiculous. And that there is a huge spectrum and a huge scale. And as we grow and evolve, we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, we're going to win some, we're going to lose some. But the thing is we're always going to be getting better. I want to just share the other night I was out to dinner and I had a moment with a friend. I said something and I didn't know that there was some backstory to it. I didn't understand his context and he called me weak and I didn't take to that very well. The whole conversation stopped and, I said something and he said something and we agreed to just like let it go for the moment and enjoy the rest of the dinner. But the whole thing had flatlined. We had flatlined. So in that moment, I'm going to give you the steps. I repressed for that moment because I couldn't process exactly what would be the correct move. So we repressed. Then I got in the car and boom, now it starts coming out of like, right? So then what I do, I open up my notes and I write out my victim story of like, you did this, it was immediate, it was harsh, it seems like it was coming blah, 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 blah. Now that I've gone through my entire victim story, right? I suppressed, I released my victim story, then I reflected on now what's his perspective, right? Because I validated myself, and then I was able to send a really beautiful text that cleared the air from his perspective because I had met my own needs and everything went really well. And then we were having breakfast, right? But I just want to say that, we talk about these things, but you're not going to be able to immediately in the moment use all your Chris Voss tools and be like, I'm weak. It seems like you feel threatened that I didn't show up on New Year's Eve to your party, right? It's like we're not always going to be able to do that. And that might not always be appropriate. And we have to give ourselves a break. But what I want to say is when we have these disagreements, these things, it's like, yeah, you know what? I was shocked. I was triggered. And we have to remember, one, to be able to suppress in that moment of like, control, then give ourselves the space for the victim story so that we can get out and unblend from it and take a bigger perspective of their shoes and what is true and what is not true. And only then can we only then can we choose love, really, rather than choosing pride or fear. Because I had to go through all of those steps in order to give the understanding text. I had to go through anger and pride to get to understanding. Because a lot of times we'll come out of that situation, we'll get in the car, and we're like, I shouldn't be so upset about this. And then we freeze our evolution. We pause it. We can't evolve if we stop the process of evolution. This fire shouldn't be burning, but that fire needs to burn in order to clear the brush for the new stuff to grow. So we can't just prevent the anger from happening. The anger needs to happen. The pride needs to happen, which will allow us to get to reason, which will allow us to get to understanding, which will allow us to move to love.